Hi, I'm Susan, and today we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day by talking about a big way we can help the Earth. But first, with all these topics we've been going over, from frogs to birds to plants, there's one big thing that's threatening all of them, and that's pollution. And a big part of the pollution on our planet is trash. It's estimated that Americans generate about 4.5 pounds of trash a day, which equals total for the whole country about 267 million tons of trash every year. On a more local level, we're here at Lake Michigan. It's estimated that about 10 million pounds of trash end up in the lake every year. And about 85% of that is plastic trash. The problem with that plastic is it never really goes away. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces, and it continues to threaten the different things in our environment. So how can we help get rid of all this trash that we have in our environment? Well, there's three big things we can do, and they all start with the letter R. We can reduce, we can reuse, and we can recycle. And we're going to talk about each one of those next. If we want to stop generating so much trash, the first step we have to take is that first R. We have to reduce. We have to reduce the amount of food packaging and stuff that we're generating when we go to the store and when we eat and when we just live our lives. So one way to do that is when we're first at the store, we're first buying something, think about our purchases more. Is this something I really need? Is this single use or is it reusable? Is there a way I could use this package in a different way? And is this package recyclable? These are all things we want to think about before we even buy something, because then we're reducing the amount of stuff and the amount of garbage that's going into the landfills at the end of the day. I'm going to show you some easy ways that you can reduce the amount of trash you generate overall by replacing some single-use items with some reusable items. And then every day you have that reusable item instead of having to use a new thing every day. The first one, it's really popular right now, is replacing one of these, a single-use plastic straw, with a reusable straw. If you think about how many times you go out to eat, or you go through a drive-thru and you get a straw with your food or with your meal, if you replace all those straws with one of these that you carry around with you and keep clean, you're going to reduce a lot of plastic that's going to end up in our landfills and that's going to get out into the environment just by replacing this with one of these. So a really easy way to reduce the amount of trash you're generating. Another way is these. So a lot of us use these, right? They're good for sandwiches, they're good for snacks, but they are not easily recyclable and they're kind of designed for single use. So one thing you can do is rewash these and keep reusing them over and over. But you can also replace them with reusable snack bags. They make bags that are waterproof, that seal, and that you can use to store food just like you would this bag. So if you get one of these, you can now use this over and over again. You're reducing that plastic that's ending up in the landfill. Another really popular way to reduce the amount of trash you generate is replace one of these with one of these. These single-use plastic bottles are a big source of trash in our world. Lots and lots of people use these, lots of people throw them out. And a lot of them don't get recycled. So just replacing one of these with a reusable water bottle that you can fill up before you leave your house and take around with you is going to reduce a lot of the trash that you're going to generate every day. And then finally, if you're able to, you can replace a plastic bag with a reusable bag. Again, these are sturdier. You can also reuse your plastic bags over and over again if you want, but if you start getting some reusable bags, if you're able to use them at the store you're at, then you can use those instead and just have less plastic going out in general. So now that we've reduced the amount of trash we're generating in the first place, we can get to the second R, reuse. Looking at the trash we're about to throw away and think, can any of this be used for something else before I throw it into the landfill? This is not a new concept. People have been reusing stuff for a long, long time. For a while, making new stuff was really expensive, so people would repair their clothes, they would reuse stuff for other stuff every day. This is one way kids would reuse stuff back in the 1800s and the Victorian era. This is the milk bottle clothespin game, and it's made of exactly what it sounds like. It's an old milk bottle that they weren't using anymore, and old clothespins they weren't using anymore. And they would make a game out of this. So we're gonna give it a shot. So that's how you play that game. And you can make this game at home if you want. If you have a milk jug or a bottle that you were about to throw away, you can actually keep it, make sure it's really clean and rinsed out, grab some clothespins or even some old pencils or some crayons, and you can make the same game at home, reusing stuff that might otherwise end up in a landfill. So we have reduce, we have reuse, and now we have recycle. Recycling is just taking waste products, things in our trash, and changing them back into something that we can use again so that we're keeping it out of the landfill. So if you can't find a way to reduce the trash and you can't find a way to reuse the trash, then you can recycle it and still be helping out our planet and helping out the environment. Now it is time for that third R. We've reduced the amount of trash we're generating overall. We found ways to reuse some stuff that we were about to throw out. So now we're going to figure out what we can recycle from the stuff we're putting in the trash. A big one you can recycle is paper. Paper, glass, metal, and most plastics are things you can recycle at this recycling bin that you have right at home. It's called curbside recycling. And a lot of stuff that you're going to throw out or recycle can go right in that bin at your house. The biggest rule about that bin though is make sure anything you're putting in it is cleaned out. Rinse out your juice containers, wash out your tin cans, clean out your milk jugs. Make sure the paper doesn't have any food on it before you put it in there, or the cardboard doesn't. Because it's really important for the stuff in that bin to stay clean so that it can be recycled successfully. So a big category you can recycle is any kind of paper product. Lunch bags that don't have any food in them, newspapers, some junk mail can be recycled. Even if it's shiny like this, it can go in your curbside recycling bin. Old phone books you don't want anymore. And cardboard. So any kind of cardboard like this or like a delivery box can go in your curbside recycling bin. Another thing that can go in your curbside recycling bin is glass. So if you looked at this jar, you might be able to find a way to reuse it. I really like to reuse these for painting, especially to store paintbrushes in. But if you can't figure out a use for this, you can recycle glass in your curbside recycling bin. Next is metal. We have a couple different kinds of metal. We have a pop can and we have a metal coffee can. Both of these can go in your curbside recycling bin. So we'll put those over here with this stuff. The last category we're gonna look at, oh wait, we have one more paper thing here. Egg cartons. There's a couple different kinds of egg cartons you can buy. And this is a good example of the reduce step. When you're at the grocery store and you're looking at products, look at the packaging they're in. Because this cardboard one can be recycled, but this styrofoam one, it's really hard to figure out where to recycle styrofoam. Most places won't. And here in Porter County, we don't recycle styrofoam in our curbside or at a facility here. So when you're buying these eggs, pay attention to the package they're in and buy the one that can be recycled or buy the one that you can reuse. So the recyclable one, the cardboard one's gonna go over here. And this one, unfortunately, unless we can find a way to reuse it, which these can be really good for storing little things like beads or nuts and bolts or things like that. But if we can't find a way to reuse it, this is something that would end up in the trash. All right, next we're gonna do plastic. Plastic is the final one. So in Porter County, you can recycle, we have plastics number 1 through 7, and you can recycle everything but 6. 6 is called polystyrene. It's actually a kind of styrofoam. It's related. We can't recycle number 6 plastic curbside here. But look on the bottom, there's gonna be a number. So when you're looking at stuff to recycle, you're gonna check that number on the bottom. This is a number 2, so that can go in our curbside recycling because it's not a number 6. This one, sometimes they're a little hard to find. Here it is on the side. This is a number 1, curbside recycling. Also, when you're recycling bottles, keep the cap on. That makes sure all this plastic goes through the machines at the recycling facility and doesn't fall onto the floor. Here's another one, number 5. So this can be recycled in your curbside recycling bin, but this might be a really good container to reuse for something. So always keep that in mind. Just because something is recyclable doesn't mean you can't reuse it instead and keep it around. And now we're gonna get into some tricky areas similar to our egg carton. These are all number 6, and then this one I'm not sure what it is. It does not have a number on it. So these we can't put in our recycling bin. So what can we do? I really like reusing this stuff. I do a lot of painting, I do a lot of crafts, and these are great to put paint in. They're great to put water in to clean your brushes. And plates like this are really good to use as palettes. You can see this one has a lot of paint on it already. So these are things I like to reuse. So try to see if you can think of ways to reuse the number 6 plastic things you have so that you don't have to put them in a landfill. Also, when you're at the store, again, look at the packaging. See if you can avoid buying packaging that's not recyclable or not reusable. So these, unfortunately, I have to go over the egg carton for now, but these I would reuse. And now we have all this stuff. This is kind of weird stuff here. Snack bags, these are very hard to recycle. A lot of these end up in a landfill. There are some programs you can use to recycle these, but they're not very accessible. They're not really easy to use. So this might be something if you have that ends up in a landfill, unless you can think of a way to reuse it. Same with plastic straws. Really, really hard to recycle these. So again, try to avoid these if you can. But again, this is gonna go over here in our pile of stuff that's not recyclable unless you can think of a way to reuse them. Then we have this stuff. These are all different kinds of plastic film. We have our plastic bag. Plastic bags can be reused, but sometimes they get tears in them. So this one's not gonna be very easy to reuse. These you cannot recycle in your curbside recycling bin, but what you can do with all these different plastics, from your plastic bag to your Ziploc bag, to these kind of packing materials here, wrapping that goes around the outside of paper towels or toilet paper, or like cases of water, and even cereal bags, if you get all the crumbs out of them, these can all be taken back to the store where you go grocery shopping or where you go regular shopping, like Target or any grocery store in your area. They have bins where you can put all this plastic film and they'll recycle it. So there is a solution for these. It's not curbside, you can't recycle it at home, but you can easily recycle these in your community. You just take them back to whatever store you got them at. So now we are left with this. This is stuff that definitely can't go in your curbside recycling bin and would usually end up in the trash. Not stuff that's very easy to find a way to reuse, but I'm going to show you a different kind of recycling that we can put these in that's going to make sure they don't end up in the landfill at the end of the day. So we went through our trash and we took out everything that's going to go in our curbside recycling. So metal, plastic, paper, and glass that can be taken to a recycling facility and made into new things. But now we're going to talk about a different kind of recycling. We're going to talk about composting. Composting is a way to recycle some of the things we can't put in our curbside bin. A big one being food scraps, like from vegetables and fruits, and also stuff like yard waste, like grass clippings or branches or leaves and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you a big compost bin. If you have space at home, you can try this out if you want. But this is just going to show you another way that you could potentially recycle some of the stuff that's in your trash. I'm going to show you sort of a quick setup for a compost bin, but I'll also include a link at the end where you can go get more information about composting if you decide you really want to get into it. The biggest thing with composting is you want to have a container that has air holes in it so that air can get through your compost and it has lots of ventilation. Also, you want to layer things. So you're going to layer what's called the browns and the greens. The browns are kind of the dried up leaves and stuff, and you want more of those in your compost bin than the greens. And the greens are the fresh stuff, like any green lawn clippings or any branches or grass that you have, anything that's still green, that's the greens. But also a lot of your kitchen waste that you might put in your compost. So banana peels, some old celery, pieces of tomato, eggshells, coffee grounds, these are all considered the greens. So being a green doesn't necessarily mean it's actually green, but it just means it's the fresher stuff you're gonna put in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna layer your browns. So you're gonna put some old leaves, I already have some in here, but put some of those leaves in. And then you're gonna do a layer of your greens. So fresh branch clippings, they're still green. If you have some grass clippings, you can spread those out in a layer. And then again, all your kitchen stuff. So this is going to be vegetables, fruits, like I said, eggshells, coffee grounds. What you do not want to compost from your kitchen is any kind of meat or like animal fat. So like I said, meat, butter, stuff like that, a lot of oils, those you're not going to want to compost. You're going to want to keep it to your vegetables, fruits, and then eggshells is the one kind of exception to that. Coffee grounds are great to compost. So just make sure you're composting the right stuff. You're going to do a layer of that. And then what you want to make sure you do before you walk away from your compost pile is cover it up again with a layer of browns. That is going to keep it, not only decomposing at a good rate, but it's going to keep it from smelling really bad. So you want to cover up those greens with a good layer of browns, and then you just got to let stuff sit. If you want, you can do something called turn it, where you kind of come in here and rotate stuff around, but you don't have to do that. If you want a really simple compost pile, you can just let this sit until it's all decomposed and it's ready, and then you can use it in your yard, you can use it in your garden, or you can just spread it out and add it back into the dirt that's around your house. If you don't have room in your yard to put a big compost bin, but you still want to try composting, this is a really little way you can try it. This is just an old pop bottle. You can see that I'm reusing it. Get an adult to help you cut the top off of this. You can just use scissors, really carefully cut off the top. And then you can fill this with the waste from your kitchen. But remember, no meat, same as the big compost bin. And once you get it filled up, you can put the top back in like this and then cover it up with like a kitchen towel or something like that. And then you have your own miniature compost bin that you can use in your house, and one that doesn't take up too much room. And you're still getting a chance to recycle some of the kitchen waste and keep it out of the landfill. So now that you've figured out what can go in your curbside recycling bin and what you can compost, before you throw that stuff that's left in the trash, do a little bit of research and see if there's anywhere else you can take it to recycle it. Because there are some projects out there that let you recycle stuff that you can't normally recycle easily. One example is this. This is a fishing line recycling bin. So you can't recycle fishing line curbside. You can throw it away in the trash, but if you have one of these in the area where you live, you can take it here instead and it will get recycled and it will help keep it out of the landfill. So after you reduce, you reuse, and recycle, there's one more thing you want to do, and that's something called closing the loop. Closing the loop means not only are you recycling products, but you're buying products that are made from recycled materials. This makes sure that stuff just keeps going, and instead of ending up in a landfill, it keeps getting made back into useful products. I want to show you one more creative example of recycling before we go, and that's this bench. This bench is made from more than 800 pounds of plastic caps. There's a company right here in Indiana that collects these caps and makes them into these benches. So it's a really great example of people taking something they can no longer use and turning it into something really useful that will last a long time. So I hope you guys learned a lot about different ways you can help the planet and different things you can recycle and different ways you can reuse things. I hope you had fun, and thank you so much for joining me.